having all those failures is what really made it so special, because every single race something was breaking, and every single race I didn't get to finish, but it's all part of it. I can't expect to finish every single race.
Yeah.
The desert's gonna win. The desert's gonna win most of the time, not you. Yeah.
Coming to you straight from Fremont, California, this is the Fremont Podcast, dedicated to telling the stories of the past and present of the people and places of the city of Fremont, one conversation at a time.
Hello Fremont, this is Sumana. We are in Ardenwood. You are listening to episode 59 of the Fremont Podcast.
Now, here's your host, Ricky B.
Many of my episodes I am recording at Devout Coffee, and you don't hear a whole lot in the background, but this one we're recording in a repair shop?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, boat shop.
Boat shop?
Everything marine related.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, who owns this boat shop? Like, why are we in the boat shop?
I work for my dad, so my dad owns a business, Kevin Price, and I'm Jordan.
Yep.
And I work for him. My sister works for him. We're a small family business, and yeah, we work here every day.
Awesome.
And
what kind of work do you do? Like, what is the stuff that you find yourself doing on any given day?
It's never the same thing every day. 100%. We're doing something different every single day. We do everything from a service to installing new engines, repairing old engines. We do basically everything here but build a boat.
Okay.
So today we were cleaning up a boat because we're putting new engines in it. And then we're installing superchargers on another boat. So it's different every single day.
That's
here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Who are you working for? Like, I know your dad owns a business, but do you just have clients that come in and bring their boats in and you guys work on those?
Yes. So we're very blessed with a large customer base.
Okay.
Being just about one of the only people in the Bay Area that works on boats.
Yeah.
So a lot of these people have been coming here since my dad opened up the business, and then a lot of people see us on the side of the freeway and they see the sign and, oh, you work on boats, get a lot of referrals.
Yeah.
It's hard building a client base for sure.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
But it does help, being next to the freeway. And
I was going to say, you mentioned being next to the freeway, and we're at the very bottom of where Fremont Blvd and 880 come together. So there's that wedge across from the Tesla plant. And so we're sitting in this warehouse or this shop with an open bay, and you can actually hear 880, the cars all going by. So people from the road recognize and can see your sign out there.
Yes. Yeah, that's definitely a big factor that helps us out 100%.
That's great.
Our biggest thing, though, is we do honest work. We don't lie. And
that's awesome.
Our goal is to keep our customers happy, because if our customers are happy, they're going to come back. They're going to refer their friends.
That's good that you learned that early on. I've had a couple businesses of my own, including this podcast business, but I'm very much into good customer service, and I think that doing what you say you're going to do and then keeping the customers happy is a huge thing. And honestly, I think that is getting lost in a lot of businesses these days. I think you have people just trying to make money and doing whatever they can to get there. So we're not here because you repair boats. We're actually here because you do what?
So, like I said, we do a little bit about everything. I work out in the shop, so I do everything mechanics-wise.
But you race.
Oh, yes.
You race cars.
I race cars. Yes.
So you work in a boat shop. You're a mechanic in the boat shop.
Yeah.
But I found out about you because you are a car racer. Now tell me what kind of a car you race.
Yeah, so I race it's called a 1600 car. When most people look at it, they think it's a dune buggy, so that's kind of the best example of what it is. I do desert racing.
What do you call it?
I call it a 1600 because that's the type of car it is. It's the type of engine I run.
Okay.
So I race a couple different cars, but that has been my main focus about the past 2 years.
Wow.
And then hopefully this year we'll be stepping up into a spec truck. So my dad and I will be racing that together.
Wow. Okay, so you're going to have to identify.
Yeah, sorry.
So no, you're good. You're 1600 spec track and, okay. So let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
So your normal racing looks like what? When you're in a race, what does that race look like?
Oh, a number of things. I mean, just like working in the boat shop, it's different every single time.
But you said spec track. You're going to look at doing spec tracks. But do you race? Do you race in like parks around town here,
okay.
or do you race? What is your rate? What do the races look like that you compete in?
Okay, so the last year I did 2 races in Mexico. So we race in Ensenada mostly, and then we do races in San Felipe. Most people know our races by like the Baja 1000. A lot of people have heard of that. That's one of the races we do. So that's kind of what I tell people when they ask us what race we do, say the Baja 1000.
Okay, so the Baja 1000. What does the 1000 stand for?
Stands for 1,000 miles.
Wow.
Yes.
So you drive, when you race 1,000 miles.
Yes.
In the desert?
Yes.
That's phenomenal.
So what it usually is they do a loop, so Ensenada to Ensenada. But this year we're setting history this year because we're going to be racing all the way from La Paz to Ensenada. So in total it's going to be probably 1,200 miles.
Wow.
And once we leave the start line, our timer's on.
Hey Fremont, this is Andrew the editor. Sorry to be a Budinsky. Just thought it was really important. If you drove on admittedly regular roads from Fremont to San Diego, that would be 475 miles. If you drove from La Paz to Ensenada, admittedly on regular roads and not on these tracks, it would be 871 miles.
And we don't stop. We keep going until
You
we
don't
get to the
stop
finish.
at all.
The only time we stop is if we need gas and tires.
How do you get fuel, and who helps you with all that?
We have to set up pits, so you have to factor in how many miles you can go before your car runs out of gas.
Yeah.
So our range on our car is 120 miles max. So you usually find a pit about every 110 miles. Your crew has to drive out into the desert and meet you on the course because your race car does not leave the course. They have to meet you on the course. And
So I'm trying to figure this out because that sounds really awesome. But if you're racing, that means you're driving pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
But they've got to beat you to the pit stops. So how does that work?
you have to have multiple people. So
So
on a short race, you can have one chase truck. But on any other bigger race, you're going to want 2, 3, 4. The more people, the better, because it just makes it easier for everyone. So some races will race from Highway 3 to Highway 5 in Mexico, and that's a very large gap, and it takes about 3 hours to get from each side. So you need 2 chase trucks in that instance. You cannot have just one.
Wow. So are these groomed tracks that you're running on? Like, is this like something that like is a common like a track that a lot of people would know about, or are you like blazing trails? I mean, what is that?
It depends on how they map out the course for the race. So no matter what race we're doing in Mexico, when we start in Ensenada, it's always the same first 30 miles because that's the only way to get out of town in the desert.
Okay.
So a lot of the races they've been doing lately, they've been bringing back courses from 15 years ago that we haven't raced in a long time. So, it's got overgrown plants and everything. So the last race I did there, we were mowing down trees, plants, because the course was just not broken in.
Wow.
But it's different every single race. You can be on one that's really well groomed. You could tell there's been a lot of people on it, and then you'll get to a section where it looks like this isn't even the race course. Like, we're just going through open desert right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So like what are good choices and bad choices when you're driving? So I mean, I will have to say that I don't necessarily understand car racing anyway all that much. Like I'd love to go fast in a car. I think it sounds like a lot of fun. And then it almost seems like there's an element to it that I think that anybody who, like me, who doesn't know racing would look and say, well, anybody can do this. Like, why are you? What is it about you that makes you unique uniquely prepared to race in something like this? And like, what does the conditioning or the preparation look like for you to be ready to race?
Yeah, so there's a lot to it. A lot of it is mindset. When you get out in that desert and it's just you and the person sitting next to you, you two have to be so mentally prepared for this.
So is this a 2-person race?
You can do single or two. My car is a 2-seater.
Okay.
So in my class, they also have single seaters.
Oh, okay.
But I prefer to have a
Who do you
two-seater.
have? Who races with you?
It's kind of different every race. I have.
Can I race
two,
with you?
If you wanted to, yeah, yeah.
I would totally do that. That would be awesome. I don't know that we'd win. I'm quite big and heavy, so I probably would like weigh you down a bit. But, you know.
My car is actually all about weight.
Okay.
So I do have to be very careful on. I'd
have to start my dieting right now and be like, I'm gonna race with Jordan, but I gotta knock some
Hey,
things
we're all
down,
starting
so.
for the year,
That's
right?
That's right.
Yeah, but definitely mindset. And then, of course, money is a big factor in racing. If you don't have the money to do it, you're not going to be able to do it. I'm very lucky and fortunate to have good sponsors and, of course, my parents.
Yeah.
Without them, I would not be racing. And when people have that mindset of, oh, I want to get in a race car, like, come on, it's just driving. It's not that hard. This is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Wow.
I've never done anything harder than this. It's the mental challenge it puts you in, because you think like, oh, I'm just driving, like it's fine, but sometimes you'll have a part break on the car and you can't get a hold of your team and you're in the desert all by yourself, 100 miles from the highway, and you start getting these thoughts like, what if they never find me?
Right.
And when you're a racer, you can't have those thoughts. You can't be negative. You have to be positive all the time. You can't think, what if this? What if that? You just have to be positive. You have to trust your race car, trust the person sitting next to you, and trust your team.
Wow.
The biggest thing for me would be the mental mindset of it. You have to be prepared.
Wow.
We'll be right back. You can hear the rest of this conversation in just a moment. Dale Hardware is now ready to open their own pet center. Now you can get all of your pet supplies. You can get everything you need for your furry friends right at Dale Hardware. On top of that, Dale Hardware is the only hardware store in the country that has a destination center for Milwaukee tools. There are more Milwaukee tools under that roof than any other retail establishment in the country. Even with these big changes, the heart of Dale Hardware has not changed. So come on down to Dale Hardware and let a specialist help you find exactly what you're looking for with the type of care and attention that hasn't changed for over 65 years. Buying a home is a big decision. When I'm trying to make a big decision in my life, I turn to family. Family generally has my well-being in mind. They want the best for me. Whenever I visit Jennifer at Petrocelli Homes in Niles, she treats me like family. If you're in the process of buying or selling a home, turn to family. Turn to Petrocelli Homes. And now, back to our conversation.
So is there anything that you do, like, when are you racing next?
My next race is in March.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there anything that you do now? Like, what are some of the things that you might be doing now to prepare for that race?
I feel like I'm very conditioned to it at this point where I don't have to, like, mentally prepare myself as much. But physical wise, about a month before the race, we really start conditioning with hydration, because hydration is a very large factor racing down in Mexico because it's so hot there.
Yeah.
You have to be very well hydrated, and it takes a huge toll on your body racing that you need all those fluids. You need to be hydrated. And then, of course, prepping the car before the race.
Do you ever get on like Google Earth and like just go down and look at some of the areas that you're going to be racing? Like, is there any way to kind of know ahead of time like what might be some of the features in the landscape that you might be having to go up against?
So you can do that. I prefer not to do that just because I feel like it's so different seeing it online compared to in real life.
Yeah.
So all of our races are on a Saturday, and then we essentially have the whole week or even the week before to go down there, and we can, it's called pre-running, and you could pre-run the course as many times as you want. Most races we try and leave about a Monday night. Having the business is really hard with racing because we can't take a whole week off of work.
Right.
Yeah, so a lot of people who just like arrive and drive, they'll show up 2 weeks before a race and just run the course nonstop. But we're a small team, small business, so we do what we can to make it work. I usually run the course about once or twice before a race, and that puts me in a good mindset.
So mom just reminded us of something. Mom and dad are here now, right?
Yeah.
They've been holding up signs behind us. So what was it that your mom wanted to remind you of?
So my first year of racing the 1600 down in Mexico.
By yourself, or like you were the driver?
Yes. So
Yeah.
you have what's called a driver of record, and that person has to start or finish every single race. And that was me for the season. It still is me for that car. But yeah, that year, hard fought year, my first year ever racing. I didn't know how to drive a stick. I had not had that many miles under my belt driving down in Mexico, so it's so hard to grasp all that information and try and learn everything. But yeah, I came in third in the championship in that year. So
that's awesome.
It was such a huge accomplishment for me, and being my first year of racing, first year of driving, it was so cool.
That's awesome. Well, I think it's remarkable that you love racing enough that you forgot you got third place. So I mean, it's good to know that you love what you do, and it's not just about the placement. And of course, that's also important.
Yes, and for me, of course, a win is nice and everything, but I love the experience of being down there with the team and with my family, and just getting to participate in the race is such a huge thing for me, because there's so many people out there that want to do it, but they can't do it. So I don't look at all the glory of it. There's so, like I said, there's so much behind the scenes, and that is what makes it everything that it is. Not getting that trophy, it's everything else besides the trophy is what just makes the racing so special to me. Yeah.
So approximately how fast are you going on average through the desert? Because so I'm thinking of like the Indianapolis 500. It's on a paved track. You've got cars that are going, a couple hundred miles an hour.
Yeah.
But it seems like that race just goes on forever. Like it just never stops. But you're doing twice that distance. And you're not doing it on a track that is paved or conditioned for high-speed racing.
Yeah.
So how fast are you going, and how long does it take you to ride 1,000 miles?
So my car's on the slower side of the spectrum. There's so many different classes that race, but my car's just VW power, so my max speed in that thing is like 86 miles an hour. It's very slow for racing in the desert.
Yeah.
On an average race, of course it depends on the terrain of the course, but I like to average around 40 miles an hour. Just because you're not full pin the whole race, like it's not like that. It's way more technical than it is fast. You'll go through much more, mountain climbs than you will straightaways.
Wow.
So it's constantly
Wait a minute. So you go through a lot of mountain climbs?
Yes, we do.
So what kind of mountains are we talking about? Are we talking like Mission Peak Mountains? Are we talking like Coyote Hills? Or what are we talking about?
As far as Mission Peak, it's only one mountain. So when you get out in the desert in Mexico, you go through probably 30 miles of mountains.
Wow.
So it's constant climb the hill, super steep downhill, climb the hill. It's so technical, and a very super sharp left-hand turn, super sharp right-hand turns, and a lot of the times we have a cliff right on the side of us.
Wow.
So if we make one wrong mistake, we're going off that cliff hundreds of feet down.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's
Is there anywhere around here close by that you can practice in some of those same conditions? Like not necessarily on the edge of a cliff, but are there places where you can have tracks or trails or anywhere that you can drive where it kind of gives you the ability to practice ahead of time?
Unfortunately, not around here. San Diego would be the closest kind of area. We go testing in a place called Barstow. It's got a section called Barstow, Maine is what they call it. And it's very whooped out. So the best way to explain what whoops are is like Very,
Whoops.
very large.
It sounds to me like you took a wrong turn. Like, whoops.
No. Okay, so you know how in motocross when they go across like those bumps?
Yeah.
That's kind of how they are, but
Okay.
they're a lot larger. So you gotta have a fast car to be on top of them. They're 5 feet deep. So
Wow.
yeah, you're just constant. It's a very hard to drive in. And then they also have a couple mountains in Barstow, but nothing compares to the terrain in Mexico. You'll never get close enough to it here. It's very narrow, tight terrains we're going through in Mexico, and you just don't really get that here.
Okay.
So
Wow.
yeah, it's
You mean we don't have
definitely
that? Yeah. I guess Coyote Hills is not all that.
no. And they don't let me bring my
They don't
race
let you.
car
What's
out
wrong
there.
with that? What's wrong with that? So is this the only race that you do? So you have Mexico, and then do you have other races that you do?
There is races stateside as well. I had not the greatest luck last year, so I took a step back from racing in Mexico to race in the States. Stateside racing is a little bit easier than Mexico. It's not as hard on the car.
Okay.
So I did 2 races at the end of last year, and in the States.
Okay.
So I raced in Laughlin, and I raced in Johnson Valley here in California.
Okay.
And it was kind of just to work all the bugs out on the car.
Did you enjoy those races?
Yes. Yeah. I love racing no matter where
Okay,
I'm at.
yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful to be in my car racing. But when it comes down to it, Mexico's my go-to place to race.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Do you is there anything specific, like, so I know this completely pales in comparison, so I do not want to compare it. I have some friends that have go-karts, and I went driving on those, and they had the cage and all that stuff, and I've been able to go out riding in various conditions in different places at times. But are there certain elements, are there certain like features when you face them in the middle of a race that you kind of look forward to? You're just like, oh, I can't wait for a turn. I can't wait for, a particular element of the race that actually gets you excited.
Yes. So they don't do it every race, unfortunately, but when we race on, I always forget which highway's which, but we race on, it's called the coast. So we race right on the water. We're 10 feet from the water. Super close. It is absolutely gorgeous views. It is the most beautiful thing you could race through. And I personally am not a big fan of night racing. I like the day racing, but there's nothing more beautiful than watching the sunrise come up from
cool.
racing in the dark and then into the morning. The desert is gorgeous. All the time, but the sunrise in the desert is just beautiful.
Do you ever have a moment to kind of take in the beauty besides that? Like, are there things, or are you just kind of locked in for a while?
Once you get in that mindset of racing, you're not really paying attention to anything else besides that. But when we go pre-running, and sometimes we'll go out if I know I'm going to be running that section at night, I go and pre-run it at night. And then sometimes we'll be out there all night until the morning, and it's
so
just
I don't think you
beautiful.
answered, and I think I got you distracted. But how long are you in the vehicle when you race like a 1,000-mile race?
A 1,000-mile race. Since I do pass the car off, we have a time limit of 50 hours for the Baja 1000.
Okay, so you're done with the race after 50 hours if you haven't finished 1,000 miles.
So once you start the race, your clock starts, and then you have 50 hours
50
from then.
hours. That's more than 2 full days.
Yeah,
Are you exhausted?
100%.
Oh my goodness.
It is the most draining thing you could do. When I get out of the car, it's like I'm cool for the first day. The next day, I'm in so much pain.
Oh my goodness.
I have really bad back pain. My arms from holding the steering wheel so tight. It's so draining on your body.
Wow.
But you can't beat the feeling. Like, there's nothing better than it. Like, all those moments of glory you got out in the desert is worth that pain because you get to say,
That's so cool.
I completed the Baja 1000, and who cares if my back hurts?
So what do you do? What do you do when you break down in the middle of the desert or something goes? Let me ask that question along with, what's the most likely thing that will happen to you in the car or to the car in the middle of the desert? Like, what is it that you're checking?
I wish I could say, but it's every single time something breaks, it's different. Every single race. Almost never the same part breaks, ever. On my car, the most, I guess you could say, common thing to break would be my arms on the front end, so like my suspension. But in the past 2
Wait a
years,
minute, the actual, so the arms of the wheels on the
yes,
front. Yeah.
kind of like that. So it has two on each side.
Right.
So there's an upper and a lower.
Okay.
And then a lot of the time, the shaft that slides into the chassis, which is what lets it
Yeah.
rotate, it snaps off.
So what do you do?
You got to change it.
Do you carry that with you?
I do.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So when I race in Mexico, I carry as many spare parts as I can on that car, with keeping it light as possible. When I race in the States, I don't carry any parts.
Wow.
Because when you're in the States, your thing is whoever's the fastest, who has the fastest car, the lightest car. That's who's
Okay.
going to win.
Okay.
When you're in Mexico, it's who's the smartest driver.
Oh,
so,
interesting. Okay.
I carry as many spare parts as I can because I don't want to be sitting out in the
Sure.
desert for hours waiting for my team to come
Yeah.
get me. So if something breaks, me and my co-driver, we fix it. If we don't have the part, we get the car apart as much as we can until we have the part. And as soon
Wow.
as they get there, it's the fastest we ever work.
Wow.
Yeah.
How competent are you with your car? Like, is there something that you feel that you are incapable of doing, or that would be beyond your expertise if it broke on the car?
Of course, I mean, I'm still learning. I'm new to this car. I've only been racing it for 2 years, which to some people might seem like a very long time, but it's not long at all. I've never gotten to the point where I said, okay, I'm done with this. I'm done racing. I don't want to do this anymore. But of course, I had like that thinking of it where it's just like every single race, like something happens and I can't finish the race. And it's like, what am I doing wrong? And my last race that I did was my first race that I finished in a long time.
Okay.
And that just brought me like right back up to the top because I've been working for it for such a long time. And having all those failures is what really made it so special, because every single race something was breaking and every single race I didn't get to finish. But it's all part of it. I can't expect to finish every single race.
Yeah.
The desert's gonna win. The desert's gonna win most of the time,
Yeah.
not you.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident when something breaks, I can change it. But when it comes to like engine issues and say it's not running right, that's where it kind of stumps me because I don't have all the tools I need to perform tests I would typically do if I wasn't out in the desert. So you got to try and like use your mind and see like, oh, I wonder if it's this, I wonder if it's this. But you have to be working so
Yeah.
fast. You don't have
Yeah.
time to sit there and think about it. You just
Yeah.
have to fix it.
Yeah.
So
So how did you get into this? Like, what? I mean, you've been racing for 2 years. Like, what's the story behind you racing? How does a girl growing up in Fremont end up racing cars for 1,000 miles in Mexico?
yeah, so I actually forgot to mention I have been racing for 5 years.
Oh,
Yeah, I've just
okay.
been driving about 2.5 years.
Okay. So you've been racing for. So you're 19.
I started when I was 14.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my
yeah.
goodness. You know, I was gonna say I'm not a gamer. I'm not like I don't play video games, but when I do, I kind of enjoy Mario Kart. But even that, it's like this. Like it's almost embarrassing for anybody who like, you know, feeds on playing Mario Kart to like look at you starting when you were 14. Now 19, racing for 5 years in the desert. I mean, that's just like, I mean, that's phenomenal. That's really, really cool.
I
Yeah.
was very blessed. My dad started racing about 20 years ago, so when I was just
were
before I was born.
-1, yeah.
Yeah, just before I was born. He's been going down there about 25 years. And then after about 5 years of going down there and helping other teams, he said, you know what, I want to get in my own race car. And he started racing with his best friend, who's actually our neighbor.
Okay.
So everyone and his sister. So it was a super small team. It was pretty much just my dad, his best friend, and his sister. Like that was
Wow.
it.
Wow.
And he raced it for a while, and which is actually the car I'm driving now.
Oh.
So it's his first car, and it's an old car, but
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those things that we can't get rid of. So, and then he stepped up into a bigger class, which is called a Class 10. And
So your dad races then?
my dad races as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did
So
you guys race in the same races?
it's very hard for us to do that because you need twice the amount of people and twice the money. Yeah.
So are there races that he races in that you don't, and then ones that you race in that he don't?
Not
that he
not in the
doesn't?
past 2 years. He's kind of took a step back to let me get a chance, because when I was racing with my dad, so I did about 2.5 years with my dad. I was co-driving for him, so I wasn't driving. I'm the navigator. It was really good for me to get a feel of understanding what it's like to be out there, and I love navigating, I really do, but I also really love driving.
Yeah.
So I have no problem hopping in both seats. But yeah, as soon as I turned 16, I told my dad, I was like, I really want to drive. And he said, well, you're not racing my 10 car, but you can race my 16 car. So it had been sitting in the back of our shop for about 6 years.
Wow.
And he said, you know what, let's get it running and you could race that. So I've been racing that for about 2 years.
Wow.
And my dad hasn't raced in a little while because of me.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is so cool.
we are building a new race truck though.
Okay.
So the spec truck is
A race
hopefully
truck?
yes.
So how is that different from the?
So we race cars right now, so different motor, different suspension, different transmission. Everything about it is completely different.
Yeah.
It's all he's ever wanted to do was
That's
race a
awesome.
spec
That's
truck,
awesome.
and he's
Yeah.
finally in that position where he can.
So, but you can't race that in the same races that you're in. There's different races for this?
They're actually all the same race.
Oh.
Yeah. So in Mexico, they do everything from quads, dirt bikes, UTVs.
Oh, are you serious?
Yes.
So you bring whatever you can bring, and then.
There's a little bit of a speculation on it. You have to be up to regulations of the class you decide to race in.
Okay.
So you wouldn't believe this, but like the 67 VW Bugs,
Yeah.
people race those.
Oh
They
my
set
goodness.
it up as a race car,
Wow.
and that's what they race.
Wow. When did you really make the decision? I know you said you were 14 when you started racing, but when did you make the decision and why?
So when I was little, I loved going to the races, but I had no interest in getting in the race car at all. I would cry when I would get in the car. I just did not want to get in. As I got a little bit older, I would love it, and then and then my dad was like, let's go out, get in the car. And I was like, no, like I'm good. I had no interest. And then when I was 14, they started filming a movie called Dust to Glory.
Okay.
So
Dust to Glory?
Dust to Glory, and then
Okay.
the 2 is the number 2.
Okay.
It's a documentary on pretty much everything in Mexico. So it's the story behind it. It does a lot of interviews of people on why they do it, and then there unfortunately is a lot of people who got filmed in that movie that passed away while we were filming.
Oh, man.
And you'll see a lot of tributes to everyone.
Oh, so this is not. So just to be clear for people listening, this is not a movie that inspired you to race, but this is a movie that you were part of.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so
This is a place that's hard to shake. Which is why I'm going back to Baja. For the dust and for the glory.
It's just something that sucks you in, and then once you're in, it's really hard to get out.
We'll tell the story of the race,
Racing in Baja wins. I mean, your wingsuit speeds for 10 hours.
most importantly, we'll tell the story of the people.
Dana actually followed me and my dad around for about a year. He put GoPros on the car when we were racing, and they would catch all those candid moments between like me and my sisters and my dad's when we're all like giggling and stuff. He's amazing behind the lens. He catches these moments that you would never expect anyone to catch on film, and I'm not gonna lie to you. When you watch a movie, you're gonna cry. You will.
You know what? I am a crier, so I will take that bet because
Yeah.
I cry at a lot of things. So yeah, so
It is a great movie. It's
Yeah.
very heartfelt. It will make you cry.
Awesome.
I love the movie so much.
So do you have anything else that you love to do? I mean, are you just like, do you eat, dream and sleep mechanics or racing, or I mean, where did you go to high school?
I went to Irvington.
Okay, Irvington. Okay.
Yeah, my sisters went to Irvington.
Okay.
My dad went to Irvington.
Yeah.
My mom went to Mission.
Yep. And I found
So-
out when I first met your parents, your mom is part of the Gordino family, which
Yes.
is like Gordino Drive, I think it is, down in close to Niles.
Yes.
And that's named after, is that named after her family?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. So my papa, my great grandpa, was one of the first people in Fremont. So
Okay.
he had, my God, he had so many acres in Fremont of farmlands, and then over the years, of course, some of it went away. And
Yeah. What are some of your favorite memories about Fremont growing up here? Like, what are some of the things that you look back on and enjoy?
Honestly, going to my grandparents' house, I loved it.
Okay.
Being on the property and, of course, the shop.
Sure.
I pretty much grew up in the shop,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
we've been in Fremont in the same shop
Yeah.
for a long time.
Wow.
So it's
Your whole life, your dad started 23 years ago.
Yes.
Wow.
And even before that, he was working in Fremont. So it's
Wow.
just, it's it's so amazing
That's
to
really cool.
be in the same city for a long time, and there's so much history here
Yeah.
with our family, and not many people get that because they move out. And,
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of history here for us.
That's awesome. So, if people wanted to, follow you or get, if they are interested in knowing what races you're in or what they're doing, what's the best way for them to kind of stay in touch or to follow what you're doing?
Instagram or Facebook would be the best. Instagram, you could do the race team or my personal page. My Instagram is Jordan Souza Price, and then the Instagram for the race team is KP Off-Road Racing. I post a lot more than the race team, and I post a lot of behind the scenes a lot of people don't get to see.
Yeah.
And the race page is mostly, all the glory, like the race cars and everything.
That's cool. Well, Jordan, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Thanks for letting me come and hang out in your shop a little bit. I'm excited to go over and check out your cars, and that's pretty cool. I'll be following you on your Instagram. And see how you do out there as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
This episode was hosted and produced by Ricky B. I'm Gary Williams. Andrew Cavett is the editor. Music is provided through soundstripe.com. You can find links to our social media and other content at thefremontpodcast.com. Be sure to subscribe wherever it is that you listen so you don't miss an episode. And if you're so inclined, leave a kind review so that others can find the podcast. Join us next week on the Fremont Podcast.
That's awesome. Come here. Yeah.
This is my sister, Caitlin. She's the oldest sister.
All right.
Me and Caitlin work together at the boat shop.
Yeah. Have a seat.
I'm her manager.
Yeah, here.
Have a seat.
She is not my manager.
Caitlin's the boss of her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He already figured it out.
So, Kate, come up closer to the mic there.
Okay.
So, Caitlin, you're part of this racing family.
Yes.
Yeah. What's your take on all this?
I think it's an amazing sport, especially when you have your whole family involved. Everybody's hands-on. We drive each other crazy, but we wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much of what Jordan does around here is similar to what you do, or what do you do that is different when it comes to working in the shop here or racing? I mean, I guess that's kind of a big open-ended question. There,
managing. I manage her here, and I manage her out there in the desert.
That is true.
Yeah, it's true. She always gets mad at me saying, "You're not my mom."
And then mom shows
in
up.
reality,
Yeah.
I'm her second mom, so.
Yeah. You guys seem to have a good relationship, though.
We have a great relationship, yeah. We're 10 years apart, but doesn't seem like that.
So you're 9 and she's 19? Or just kidding.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. You're good.
Yeah.
I know I look younger.
Yeah, that's cool. That's great. That's great. When did you get into, did you start working in the shop here early on?
Yeah, I was a very young kid when my dad started the business, and I worked here growing up as a kid. Didn't have a choice. And once I had my own choice, I decided to go out on my own and work for some other companies, but didn't work out so well because I couldn't get time off for racing. So I missed a lot.
Some people just don't know what's important.
Exactly. That's why I tried telling all my old bosses.
Yeah.
And then
we'll tag them in this.
Yeah. I'll be glad to. But now, it's not a choice. I don't have to ask. We just do it.
That's great.
I don't have to ask for time off.
Yeah.
We just do it as a family. So it makes it really nice. And being there to support my little sister. I mean, even if I wasn't here, I would still support her no matter what.
Yeah, that's great.
And my dad.
And do you enjoy the support role as opposed to actually racing? I mean, do you ever feel the itch to get out there and jump in yourself?
I've done it before, but it makes it a little nicer being on the pit crew side, and I'm with my mom, and we kind of handle everything for the team when my dad and my little sister are out there. You know, handling the mic, handling weatherman. Weatherman's a guy that's on top of a mountain that just helps every single team out there. He's like everybody's lifeline. And doing the tracking, making sure that they're safe, and making sure our pits are 100% ready.
So you are the mom of her in
I am.
In some sense. She's like, well, she's playing in the playground.
Yeah, she's.
My mom's at the race, so Caitlin thinks she's my mom, but my mom's there. So she's really not.
You know, sometimes I feel like mom's just not doing enough, so I have to step in.
All right, so mom wasn't going to stand by for this, so she's joining me now as well. So, hi, Mom.
Hi.
So you're the real mom.
I'm
You're
the real mom.
The mom calling all the shots.
It's funny because when I went to the hospital and I brought Jordan home, Caitlin let me know that she was her mom now. So here it is all these years later. She still thinks she's the mom.
Tell her what she said when you were leaving for the hospital to deliver me.
Oh, if she wanted to know if she was going to be ugly, what we're going to do with her. Thankfully, she wasn't ugly.
That's important. That's important. Like you have a family reputation to uphold, so
yeah,
it's like,
right?
yeah, come on. Yeah, that's awesome. So what do you think about all this? What is, you know, your family, you guys have been here for a really long time in Fremont. I mean, did you do any racing when you were a kid, or was this something that you got into when with your husband?
No, I've been with Kevin for like 35 years now. We've been married for 31, and he got us all into dirt biking.
Wow.
And that's how it all started. And I had a quad, so I used to take Jordan on the quad when she was like 5-6 years old. She'd sit in the front, and then they all graduated, got their own dirt bikes. And so we did a lot of that, like at Hollister and Metcalf. And in Mexico, actually, we've done a lot of riding over there. But, you know, we decided with age comes a cage. So we sold the kids' bikes, our bikes, and we got a couple side-by-sides. So it's safer.
Yeah.
So that's what we do now. But that's where Jordan, I think, got the bug. I mean, she was nervous at first, but at 13, she was in a car with Caitlin. They did a breast cancer race. That was her first time in the car as a co-driver at Glen Helen Raceway, and Caitlin was driving that time.
Wow.
So she liked it.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
What's your favorite part in all of this? Like, what do you love to do?
I just love being like the cheerleader, and if you ask anybody on a team, they're going to tell you what my role is.
Oh, I'm excited about this.
My role is I'm the sandwich maker. Sandwich.
The sandwich
I'm the
maker.
sandwich maker.
Okay.
So I make sure that everybody's hydrated and fed because, like Jordan said, we could be out there up to 50 hours and we don't sleep.
Wow.
So we're up for a couple days.
Do you, as a support crew, are you guys also resting at all, or do you guys pretty much just stay up the whole time?
We have to be on top of it. We have to watch what's going on, and like what Caitlin had mentioned about the weatherman, he's the eye in the sky. So if we don't hear from them or we can't track them, then we call out and find out where they're at, because they can tell us. They have better coordinates and stuff. So no rest for us, but we're not tired.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like,
it's like an adrenaline that probably like runs through everybody and
even
just keeps
though we're
everyone
not
going.
in the car, we're still got the adrenaline going. So
Yeah.
we're thankful for our team. I mean, we couldn't do it without them. We're thankful for the tacos in Mexico because they are amazing. And just the scenery, like Jordan mentioned.
So instead of focusing on freezing out there, Jordan, you should have focused on how beautiful the sky. Of course, if it was raining, I'm sure it probably was not much to see.
I was out there. There was no moon, no stars.
That happens too.
Yeah.
And that's kind of scary a little bit, you know. He's raced in snow in Mexico, so it's all the elements.
Wow.
You get the heat, you get the cold, you get the snow.
Yeah.
You get the rain, and you get the freezing temperatures at night because it's a desert.
Yeah. Wow.
So
since I have you on here, like, what are some of the things that you remember growing up as a kid here in Fremont? What are some of the things that were special to you that you think back on and that just, you know, that was part of your childhood that maybe is gone now or maybe still is around?
So I grew up here. I've been here my whole life. My family had a produce stand. It was called Gardeno Ranches, and it was on Maury Avenue. My grandparents had 32 acres at the time. My dad ran it until 1984. I worked there. I started there at age 11, 6 years.
Wow, that's cool.
It was amazing. We met so many people. I still have the same friends from then and that worked for my dad. So it's been many years.
Wow.
So we always had so much to do. I bowled in the league, played sports at school and stuff. A lot of that stuff's not available anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Did spend a lot of time at Lake Elizabeth. Oh, Balin's Raceway was a go-to.
That was here when you were a kid?
Yes, when I was a kid, and he's raced there.
Okay.
His uncle raced there.
Wow.
So yeah, we had a lot of fun stuff.
And we're really close to where Balin's was.
We're really, really close to it.
Yeah.
There was always something to do in this town.
Yeah.
And we used to walk over or ride our bikes to the hub.
Yeah.
No challenge. Parents were never afraid.
Wow.
So
that's cool.
Good times.
Yeah.
Really good times.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
So,
well, I've loved getting to know you guys and talking with you.
Really appreciate the opportunity to be on the podcast.
Yeah. This is great. I love it.
But yes, we've been here forever. My family came here in 1954.
Wow.
My grandfather built that house that was on Walnut that she was talking about.
Wow.
Yeah, when he was 30 years old. So
That's awesome.
This is a Muggins Media podcast.